Welcome everyone to Chart's free webinar series. I'm just going to get through a few just quick housekeeping things before we get started. I wanted to let you know that this will be recorded. Actually, it looks like it's being recorded now, so I'll get through this quickly. Chart has a free webinar series that runs every month. All of our old webinars are recorded and on our website, so you're free to look at those at your leisure and share them with anyone else as well. Today, we welcome Sales Boost for Hospitality, speaking on 10 top 10 ways to be innovative. Welcome, Greta and Andrea.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us, Tara. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to the audience today. And on behalf of all of us here at Sales Boost, we're thrilled. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I'm going to be on mute for the rest of this presentation, but if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A section at the bottom.
Will do. We will have an engaging discussion today. So we'd love to have everybody quickly, if you can, chat with us and let us know that you can hear us loud and clear, but most of all, let us know where you're dialing in from. We would love to know where everyone is at virtually and let you all have a bit of a shout out. So we've got some folks from Chicago, I know, in the house, which is great. I heard it was snowing in Chicago. Let's see here, Orlando.
Tennessee, Orlando, Orange County.
Love it, Atlanta, Arizona. Woohoo, my family's in Phoenix, that's great.
Hershey, PA, Catskills, New York.
Love it. Knoxville, Tennessee, and they keep on coming in, and definitely want to shout out to Toronto, Ontario. So thank you so much. Brooklyn, New York, Buffalo, New York. This is fantastic. Don't you agree, Greta?
Yes.
Well, good. Well, we'll be talking about an important subject, and that is the top 10 ways to be innovative. While we prepare, look ahead, and ultimately get ready for the rebound, because it's certainly coming. And we at Sales Boost, again, we're thrilled to be able to speak with all of you today and engage with all of you. We are a revolutionary online training and coaching solution. We focus on accelerating performance. We use a patented voice analysis software to provide active learning environments where people can build skills. And we focus in travel and tourism. Hospitality is our key, that being hotels and restaurants, mostly event centers, you name it. Greta Brooks is our founder and CEO, and we will be talking a bit more about Sales Boost towards the end, of course, and available to support any needs you have. Greta, I'd love for you to say a few words to the audience.
Well, thank you all so much for allowing us the opportunity to talk about one of our favorite topics, which is innovation. As you can see, Andrea's title is Chief Innovation Officer, so she might know something about that. Anyway, we're thrilled to be part of Chart. As always, we're thrilled to be a sponsor and to put this on for you all today. And it is truly an honor, and we're excited for you to participate with us today. All right, let's get started.
Let's get started. So we first wanted to give a shout out to our community, the hospitality community. There's been so much love and support and extraordinary efforts based on what we're all dealing with in this very challenging and a time that we've never experienced before. So I wanted to first give a shout out to everyone for focusing on your development, number one. And also wanted to give a shout out to all the trainers, the hospitality, talent acquisition, and HR professionals out there, but also those heroes that are homeschooling children. Whether they be young or old, you all are certainly heroes with that aspect as well. So that being said, even prior to COVID-19, wanted to give a kind of a pulse check here. How many of you out there can identify with this image? What do you see happening in this image? If you can chat with us and let us know what you kind of see here. And Every day.
Erica says that's every day.
Every day you're balancing, you're juggling. You can see that this young professional has got not only, it looks like a family life, work, obviously, trying to stay fit and healthy, bills and keeping up with home and work. So yes, and the time is going cray cray, says Carol Morrell. All right, so here's another photo. This might be a little more accurate than what we just saw in this photo. So, I think this is really nice. It looks like this particular working and homeschooling individual has it all together. It looks like all the kids are doing their assignments, which is unprecedented. And she even has flowers on the table, which is interesting.
I have to say that, I'm sorry, famous Amos said the prescription bottle isn't big enough in that previous slide. Just FYI, that was funny.
That's pretty funny. So now this is nice, but I would say it probably is a little bit more accurate in this photo. What do you guys think about that, first of all? Very good. And however, you might also have an environment like this where it's just going a little nutso in the background. So innovation is important today in our virtual lives. We also have individuals that are holding down the fort in the offices where they may be having multiple roles, maybe doing the job of 10 people. And we give a shout out to them as well, because they probably have a tremendous amount of stress, not only at work, but at home as well. So kudos to those folks. No matter if you're in a virtual setting and trying to stay connected with your team, or you're in a virtual setting and you're trying to focus on what you can do for yourself, innovation now is more important than ever, because we've got to create an environment of productivity to propel us forward. So we want to be able to have a discussion today around top 10 ways to be innovative. And actually, Greta, this really was derived from personal experience. Your story is quite inspiring. And I wanted to give the audience just a little bit of perspective about these top 10 ways to be innovative. Really were from not only Greta's personal experience, but life lessons learned. Would you say that's correct, Greta?
Yes. Our patent, our industrial actually is April 21st. So we'll be celebrating that. And, that's being innovative and really finding something that can change the world. And so we're very excited about that. But yes, this was a request by a customer that said, we just love what you guys are doing. Could you speak to our customers about this, to a group of meeting planners? And we said, of course. And so we put together the story. And as we were telling the story, we actually put down the top 10 ways, because it actually turned out to be really the key takeaways were the things that you can really do differently. So very happy to share this with everyone. And we have been sharing this with several different clients as keynote speakers and that type of thing over the past really 4 to 5 months. And it's funny how everyone has 2 or 3 things that are different, but they all take away. So there's 10, hang on for all of them, because they're all important.
Yes, our intention is that you will really take away actionable resources and tools to make change and to apply these really today. And so, question for the audience in the chat. If you could, in your own words, tell us, why is it important for you in particular to take an innovative stand? Draw the line in the sand and be innovative. Chat with us and tell us why you think that innovation today is more important than ever. We'd love to hear from you. And as we're looking for our engagement and participation, we were talking to a couple of folks from Club Corp just the other day, and they were operating some clubs and that are still operating and changing the way that they are doing things. And so, I'm seeing competitive edge. I'm seeing some of these chats coming through. It's so important to make sure that yes, things have changed. Inevitably, everything changes, and so must we. We all must evolve. And so it's all about getting better and doing things smarter. Let's see here. Other things that we're seeing in here.
I love what Joshua just said. The landscape has changed and I'm going to need to change with it.
And I'm going to need to change with it. I love that. Mm-hmm. Setting yourself and your team apart from everyone else. Everyone will be rejoining the workforce together. So it's definitely going to be competitive. That is a good one right there. Any others?
It's going to be competitive.
Say it again.
It's going to be competitive.
Very competitive. Right. So that being said, you know, the innovation factor is going to help all of us adapt faster. We'll also be able to, like you said, stand out from the competition, but also we'll be able to attract the best talent too. That's the other part. So if you're putting yourself out there as being innovative, you're going to be highly sought after. But on the flip, you're going to want to find people that are doing innovative things to bring those people to your organizations first. And most importantly, those multifaceted skills, not just one-sided, but having a multifaceted skill set is going to be key. And that's part of being innovative. So we're going to get into these top 10 ways. I'm going to facilitate questions to Greta as well as to the audience. Please feel free to take notes. As Tara said, the webinar is recorded, and we actually have tools and resources that we will be providing as a post opportunity for you, and we'll address those as we go.
And be sure to, in your chat or in the Q&A, I'll be watching those for questions and address them as we go as much as we can.
Thanks, Greta. I'm so glad that we're looking at the very first one. And I'm actually going to ask you, this is number one on purpose. It's no mistake. Bring your best self. It's a huge philosophy of yours. Actually, it's a foundation of Sales Boost. And I'd love for you to share why and what are the key components of bringing your best self.
Well, I would love to have the Zen feel that this woman is portraying, wouldn't we all? And that's what I try to do. But Sales Boost was created because of innovation, trying to find an innovative way of doing something. But at the same time, it was also because I was in the process of performing self-care. So I was actually coming back from a bout of breast cancer. And in order to come back to the workforce in the manner in which I wanted to be able to do my job well at the C-level, I really needed to get my brain healthy. And so I read a lot about neuroscience and what I could do to get my brain activated faster. And so a lot of these things came from that. And first and foremost, I think we've all heard this over and over again, but I can't say this enough and stress it enough, is I make sleep my number one priority. Sleeping is the way we reset our, everything about how our brain works. It's all reset with rest. And so we really need to have that. The other thing that I do is I meditate, and my goal is 2 hours a day. I generally hit an hour plus a day. And I'll talk about how I chop that up into bite-sized pieces. So it sounds like we don't have time to meditate, but the meditation is something that I think you all know as trainers, that your hippocampus is what actually keeps you healthy, right? So that's the part we're always trying to really focus on. And this little walnut size part of our brain is the most important part to keep healthy. And the way you keep it healthy is, of course, through exercise and eating healthy, but it's really about keeping our brain healthy. And we haven't put enough effort into that. And I think people are now understanding this. So when you hear meditation, if you've never tried this before, I urge you to try it. And I use an app called 10% Happier. Many people use different ones. But what meditation does, and I use guided meditation because I cannot sit in a void of blackness and deal with all those thoughts that come in. But I'm getting better at it. And so I use 10% Happy as guided meditation. So that was the way I'm really able to do an hour, because when I chop it up, I can do 30 to 45 minutes before I go to sleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, before I get out of bed, depending on how I feel, I will set my intention I know that sounds like granola talk, but I can set the way that I want to address my day. We'll use a different frame of reference. So if I'm feeling anxious, if I need to perform, if I need to deal with something that's difficult, I can actually take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes in the morning before I get out of bed and really get my brain set straight. And then sometimes I actually do take an Epsom salt bath in the morning and I meditate at the same time. So I do multitask at times. That does work out well. And those are just really good things to make sure that before I walk in the door, that I am mentally prepared to walk in the door. I didn't realize all my life, and I see that Robin or Rudy or Lemaire is on this, and she knows this from the past. We were single moms back in the day, many years ago. And as single moms, we all know we just run out the door, or any parent, we could say that, right? We just fling our kids off to daycare and race into work. And hey, Robin. And so I learned this lesson the hard way, which is what we cannot just fling our kids out into the universe and try to be all things to everyone. We need to actually focus on ourselves first, get ourselves situated, put the oxygen mask on ourselves, and then we can actually provide more. So I couldn't be the best parent that I needed to be if I didn't focus on myself first. And it feels like a very selfish thing to say, but it's the most important thing you can do, because you then have more to give and you're a better version of yourself. So I sometimes call myself a nicer person when I meditate. Would you say that's right, Andrea?
I would agree. And I also know when you haven't meditated.
Yeah. There are some days, and you can get out of the habit, but you just kind of get back in the habit. So it's kind of like exercise. It's exercising for your brain.
Yes.
So a very healthy habit to get into.
Good. And you mentioned something that I think is important, and I'd like for you to address a little bit further, and that is you can't take care of others unless you take care of yourself. You use a metaphor for that I think is really easily identifiable for people. And that is, you know, when you're on the plane, the flight attendants always say, hey, put on your oxygen mask first, and then help those that might need assistance that are younger or older next. It's the same philosophy.
Right.
And I do know also that eating healthy and exercise is important to you, and you brought that to Sales Boost. So that also really achieves something that is important, and that is happiness. So we had a colleague of ours, a good friend and affiliate by the name of Vinny Ciccarelli, and he is with Acon Lodging. And so he actually recommended Yale University free online happiness class. And so that we thought was interesting. We wanted to share that with you. Greta, that was, I thought, a really nice recommendation. And he also talked about a happiness podcast called the Happiness Lab. So these are some of the things that we'll provide to you along with the 10% happier recommendations. And Melissa Marks, Greta, do you want to give a few words regarding Melissa as an option?
Yeah, Melissa actually does guided meditation practices, and we utilize her in our company. And so we wanted to make sure we address that. You can find a meditation or a mindfulness coach. So getting everybody into the practice of maybe, and as a team, we do this, we'll just take 15 minutes in the afternoon and just do a little check-in. And sometimes it's 3 to 5 minutes that we may do a meditation, but she can actually walk you through, or your organization, she could do it virtually or in person. So she's someone that we found. You can probably find others, but it's nice to have someone that walks you through the process and it can answer questions, because it is scientific. Somebody just raised their hand, so I was going to see who that was.
All right. So the second in the list of the top 10 ways to be innovative is a concept of developing a learner's mindset. We always talk about the importance of never stop learning and how important that is today more than ever to be innovative. And so Greta, can you tell us a little bit about why this principle is so important now and what you've done to make sure that this is at the forefront of what you do to be innovative?
Sure. Do you mind putting that slide up? It's my favorite. I love that one.
Yes, I have it up right now, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure everybody can see it. How about that?
There we go. Now we can see it. So this one, I think, is, for me, has been one of the most important things for me, trying to run a company where I'm not a web developer, but this is software. I have to really focus on learning a lot of new things and staying up and on top of security protocols and on top of business continuity. Well, that just came to light, didn't it? So all of those type of things. And I think that when we become learners and we have that mindset, it's not like we're going to college where we're going to be done in 4 years. It's always in a learner's mindset. So this is something that we just should be doing every day. And it's really just being curious. So are you waking up with curiosity, trying to learn something new? Is something inspiring? Is there a problem you need to solve? And really running to it instead of running from it. And so I love this. The reason why I wanted to show this slide is I love this guy. He hasn't stopped learning. He's doing something new. I like his plank approach, to be honest with you. He's multitasking there. And so I think it's really important to stay engaged. And sometimes we just need inspiration. So we started a book club. We're using Principles by Ray Dalio at the moment, but Learn Better by Ulrich Boser. Many of you have gotten this at the Chart Conference and some of our breakout sessions. But I would say that learning should be something we do every day. So if you have time to look at social media, or, and it could be that you just watch a lot of or listen to podcasts, or it could be that you're watching different shows on TV that are not pleasurable shows. I find watching documentaries extremely pleasurable, but documentaries and those type of things are all different ways that we can educate ourselves. So I do carve out 30 minutes every day in the morning to really focus on learning something new, reading an article by someone, being inspired by someone. So Warren Buffett does this as well. And it's something that the best CEOs that I have ever seen are voracious learners. They learn with intensity. So I cannot say enough about staying in that, keeping that curious mindset.
And I love the fact that people are starting to challenge each other on what they've done to learn something new every day, whether it be, you know, a master class or a book or a podcast, as you mentioned. So that is something I think that you live and breathe by, Greta. We wanted to share this too, because Renee Valdez, he's a contact of ours with Sales Boost, and we've seen a ton of schedules going back and forth. But Greta, you stopped and you looked at Renee, and this one caught your eye. Can you tell us why? And I'm speaking specifically to the post that's over on the right-hand side of the screen, if you're looking at it, where it starts with yoga at 7 a.m.
So I spend about 15, 20 minutes in the morning scrolling through LinkedIn and social media, because it is part of my job, but also to make sure I'm understanding what's happening within our industry. And Renee's, this list popped out and I thought, wow, look at this. So he's refusing to let the layoff dictate his future. And I love how he just went at it with, I'm going to learn something out of this. But it wasn't just business, 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 business. He was taking a French class and Excel and property management law, and he was doing arts and crafts, and he had a literature hour. So I thought, this guy is impressive. And it's all about, people are going to ask this question. It's all about, what did you do with your time that you had? Because what we always complain about is that we have no time to actually address these things. But now we can create new habits, and now we can address them. So when I look at Renee, I thought, man, I want to hire you. I mean, look what he's doing with his time. So he does say that he doesn't stick to this exactly, but this is his format, and this is how he gets through the day. And it helps keep his energy level up as well, because he's doing things that are personal development, then professional development. You can see that he's going back and forth, but I love how it's very well-rounded, and he created his own curriculum.
Yes, I can imagine he'll be highly sought after. If you're on the West Coast, Renee, find him on LinkedIn. He certainly is a very talented individual. Either that, or we might scoop him up, right, Greta?
I think we're all going to fight over him.
That's right. So number 3 is Unlearn Old Ways. And this is a little bit of a different concept. You know, I'm seeing what looks like these images of the human brain over on the right side. And so this concept is a little difficult to wrap your arms around. So Greta, can you tell us a little bit what you mean by Unlearn Old Ways and why this is part of innovation?
Well, unlearning is a neuroscience. It is a scientific aspect, and this is what I was researching a lot about, and I was trying to understand what that meant. And it's really, we lodge habits. So learning is habit forming, oftentimes, and it's a process and approach. And we can get, as you can see, as your brain learns to do something, whether good or bad, it creates neural pathways. And in the middle, when you unlearn something, you basically disconnect those neural pathways and then you relearn a better way. So you can see it's not scrambled eggs on the right side, it's actually a little bit more fluid. So that's to demonstrate that you relearned something. This is really, really important because we get stuck in habits. So those of you doing homework with your kids and the new math that's popping up, I don't, bless your hearts, because I would not be able to, I would be terribly challenged with that one. But getting stuck in old habits or old ways or old thought processes can keep us from moving forward. And so if we rely on what has worked in the past, although it could be great, we could dust it off and re-look at it again and address it in a different way. So it's not that everything in the past is wrong. It's just unlearning old ways and redoing things will help. So those of you who play golf or any type of sport like that, we know that when we have bad habits, those are the toughest ones to unhook from. So every time I go up, or when I used to play the violin and I would actually I never learned how to hold my hand correctly. I always bent my wrist, and then I had my teacher, whack my wrist. And it's because I didn't really learn to do it the right way, and I didn't force myself into new habits. So unlearning is just as important as learning, but it is something that's important, and that's the scientific way that people learn is they have to unhook. So if you're trying to get people to stop saying, sure, no worries, or sure, no problem, you have to teach them, they have to practice, and they have to unhook those neural pathways and then rehook the new ones. So it's a critical component of learning.
So when we think about, Greta, the way virtual communication, virtual business practices are now taking place as trainers, those that actually focus on training team members, this is probably going to be incredibly important to do now and to think about how training inevitably is going to change moving forward.
Right, absolutely. And it will substantially change because people have to be more multifaceted. We're going to have to push our teams into training and learning a bit more so that they do change their behaviors, because organizations can't wait for behavior to change. Their human capital will need to step up their game. They're going to have to learn. They're going to have to address poor habits. And so this will be a critical component, I think, for the training industry to really focus on immediately. This should be something that is of grave concern to most of us, for our organizations and our industries. In fact, this would be, as a CEO, this is what keeps me up at night.
Well, and the other component is from a talent acquisition standpoint for, those that are going to be looking for talent. They're going to be wanting to see what certifications, what designations do you have, because we now know that we need to have individuals who may have this certification in Excel. And I use that as an example because we all could use a certification in Excel, but that is a good one, because whatever pain point we all had, now is the time to unlearn that and relearn the new or better or more innovative way to be able to be prepared for this rebound. And that is a great segue into this next one. That is turn up the pressure. And whenever I think about this, I hear the music, turn up the what? But Greta, this is something that can be a little hard for people to hear. Maybe it might be felt as though it's a negative way, but you have a very positive spin on this. So turn up the pressure.
So this came, in the hotel industry and restaurants, and we're all in that, right? So this is something that we all know. When we have to do something in a short amount of time, our brain kicks in and we get that endorphin rush. And that's what actually propels us. So turning up the pressure in times where you have all day or you have a month to get something done, if you don't set a pressure point every day, meaning a deadline, a timeline, where you can't move forward unless you finish this one thing, turning up the pressure is going to help you have a really, really productive day. There was a really, I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead because this is my favorite story to tell on this one. And I learned this from Zig Ziglar, and so it always sticks with me. What is the most productive day of the week? And so we're going to ask this in the chat. So if you guys would tell us, what was the most productive day of the week?
That's a chat question. So for the audience, go ahead and let us know what you believe is.
We've got some
day.
Wednesdays, lots of Wednesdays.
Oh,
Sunday,
Friday.
Thursday,
We've got
Tuesday.
Friday.
Got Friday.
I see Thursday because that's Friday Eve. I can see that. Yeah.
So someone says, I bet it's tomorrow. Haha. Every day right now, I don't even know what day it is. I think all the days are running in together. I like the day you planned. So the most productive day for everyone is the day before you go on vacation. Okay, so go back into that mode. You have this big stack of papers, right? And it's been sitting there, and you move it around. It goes from this side of your desk to this side of your desk, and then over here, and then you take it home, and then you bring it back to the office, and this pile just keeps getting there, and it just never goes away. But the day before you go on vacation, you dig through that pile, you get it done because you want to walk out the door with nothing left undone so you can relax. So that pressure that you put on yourself the day before vacation is where we're trying to get our mindset. So you want to do that in short sprints and give yourself a specific time frame to get a task done. And that will really help the situation. So if it's not on your calendar, it's not going to get done. Number one.
Yeah.
Huge rule, stick everything on your calendar. And if it takes 15 minutes, give yourself only 15 minutes. And then eat the frog first or eat the toad first. So I always do the most difficult thing, the one that is causing you to avoid everything else, because that is giving you an immense amount of stress. So tackle the biggest priority, or the one that you are challenged with the most, or the one that you don't want to do, the one you're causing that procrastination. So you're probably fine if you're working with your kids at home, if you set a timer and say, I bet you can't fold your laundry and put it in your drawers in 10 minutes. They will take that, Andrea, by the way, that's a good one to use with your kids. They'll take that and say, yeah, I can do that in 10 minutes. And you're like, okay, let me see it. And they'll show you that they can. So I always set timers with my son because I could get more out of him. So those folks who are ADD or have kids in that environment understand the power of having very short time limits to certain activities.
That's very good. And the amount of time that you can get back when you do schedule shorter intervals is astounding. And so when you turn up the pressure, what I'm hearing you say, Greta, is you can absolutely be more productive.
Yes, much more productive. If you let your day manage you, it will. And we all know what that feels like. So to manage your day is to manage your energy level. So the bring your best self and really focusing on your strength of energy, your mental capacity. This is actually really where the energy comes into play. If you spread out that procrastination and you wait for 2 to 3 days and you hop to something prior to the assignment being due, you're not going to get the best out of it. So scientifically, you want to divide up a big project into daily bites. And when you get little bits done, you feel good that you got it done. And that gives you that positive, rewarding feeling. So it actually adds a great amount of those pleasurable feelings in your brain. And so when that happens, you look forward to more doing things the next day. When we add so much to our plate and we don't set relatable or acceptable timelines, then we just feel an immense amount of pressure. So now's the time to actually refocus. Now's a good time to practice this at home, even doing laundry or at work. Do something in a shorter amount of time and time yourself. Stephen Thomas is saying to us, I like to assign a 5-minute miracle and see what can be done in a very short amount of time.
That's a good one.
Absolutely. It's amazing what can be done when I actually make a cup of coffee. So while I put the little coffee machine on and I push the button, it's amazing how much breakfast or lunch I can actually get bagged up and ready to go out the door. So shorter amount of time it's not the length of time, it's the quality of time. And we all know that.
Well, and I think it's interesting that you said take big projects and break them up into smaller bite-sized nuggets and get it done in increments, because the brain break is another scientific fact that when we do the brain break, we can come back to that same project and give the same amount of energy, hyper focus, and quality versus dragging it out over a long period of time. So I think that's an interesting concept also to apply towards training in the new future.
And we do that in our active learning sessions, Andrea, just to speak about that.
Okay.
In our active learning sessions, we'll give a table, and many of you have probably been involved in these, 3 minutes to come up with a solution. And it's pretty amazing what can be actually determined in 3 minutes with a brainstorming session. So when people think they can't get something done, it's amazing when you do give them that 5-minute miracle, as you say, Stephen. Absolutely true.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so we saw this photo just a moment ago, coming back to it now. This particular one is number 5, and take more calculated risks. This was something that, you know, you've spoken about a lot. And I wanted to ask, you know, first of all, your first thought was that leaders really need to take more calculated risks, but really it expands to everyone. So Greta, tell us a little bit more about calculated risks and why these are part of innovation.
Well, you can't be innovative unless you try something new and do something different. And so I think especially in training departments, those that are focused on doing something new or trying to accelerate the performance of human capital, we're going to have to try something new. So you have to get out of your comfort zone and understand where, if you're staying in the middle lane, in the safety lane, that may be safe for you, but it's probably not great for your company that you're always staying in the safety lane. I look for people that push me out of my comfort zone and get me to look at things that are different and unique. Casey Edwards on our team, our senior instructional designer, does a great job with that. She is a learner, man. She just absolutely craves something new. And she doesn't like to stay in her lane. She knows her lane very well, but she also always is looking for that innovative approach and that innovative way. So I'm always inspired by her. But the biggest question we need to ask ourselves, and this is a personal and professional question. So to ourselves, truly, now's a good time to address this. Are we really doing what we're most afraid of? Have we jumped out? Have we tried something new? What would be the worst thing that would happen if? What's the worst thing that will happen if you don't try something new? And I think we all know what that means. That means complacency. But that's the question that I asked myself when we created Sales Boost. My question was, if I move up the next level, because I was a VP level at the time, if I move up to the C-suite and I'm in charge, what is going to be solve, and why shouldn't I focus on solving it now? Why am I going to wait to solve it when I'm here? This is an issue that I see and I want to address it now. So I'm going to bring innovation or a different way. So I worked on this and noodled on this for a while through different positions in my life. And I didn't really see the solution until the solution did present itself. And I have to say that the comfort zone that we have and not taking calculated risks is difficult. I think the trainers and the training departments and human resource team members that are involved in this, it is critical that we understand how to communicate to our senior level folks about how to take calculated risks. So Ray Dalio does this actually really well in his book Principles, and it's about how to take a calculated risk. So it's about pre-planning, having a discussion, not having some expected outcomes, but letting the outcomes come to you, because sometimes the outcomes are not exactly what you expect. They could be surprises. So the good thing is we should create environments, incubators, places where we can try and test drive new things all the time. So we're not waiting for when there's a problem that we're then going to address it, because we're then way behind the 8 ball. So we want to always keep this driving forward. So it could be part of your new plan of attack. So if you're asked when your boss says, hey, what are we going to do differently now? I want you guys to already think about, how am I going to present calculated risks or opportunities to fail? So we all know in training, give people an opportunity to fail because they learn from that. So calculated risks is actually just giving people a safe place to try something new, new dishes, new topics, new ways of doing something, new ways of training. So there's many different things that we can do to create a more calculated risk environment. And it's something that I think you guys can speak to very nicely with the C-suite at this point, because we're going to have to try new things.
Mhm.
It's a new world.
It's a new world. So the next is ask great questions. So this particular one is important no matter what your role. Asking great questions is going to be something that we all are going to have to commit to doing moving forward. And so Greta, can you define some examples of what you mean by asking great questions to be an innovator?
Well, I I really wish I would have learned this one much earlier in my life, because the people that I always thought were super smart and innovative and were the leaders of our organization were those that asked great questions. And they were able to reflect, and it wasn't that they were pompous and asking a deliberate question where of course we all answered it the way they wanted, but asking really good questions to seek to understand, to show that amount of curiosity, to show that amount of empathy, to build trust with our team members, and also to build trust with everyone at the table. So I think asking great questions, especially from a trainer's standpoint or the training department standpoint, is we're always interviewing subject matter experts. And we know that we need to ask great questions in order to create curriculum and courses that way. But I think what's most important now, more than anything, is to be able to address the issues and the problems. We have to ask great questions. So if the questions are posed of you, you can say, you know, that's funny, I've been asking myself this question, and then outline a very powerful question. In sales, we call this a twofer or a threefer. You ask one powerful question and you get the customer to talk. So let's say you're in a room and your CEO says, hey, we want to bring things back. We need to drive business. We need to get as much out of our assets as possible, out of our units, out of our hotel, whatever it may be. So a great question would be, what is the priority? What should we be concerned about? What is the direction and the ultimate success in your eyes? So asking questions that give somebody the opportunity to explain and express and define what needs to be done will help you address what you can bring to the table. So I think now is a really good time to ask really powerful, great questions of ourselves, of our team members. Practice this on your kids. So this is a really good one for those of you who do have kids, and I know most of us know kids, and we can do this and practice this some other way. But the question to kids is always frustrating when we say, how was your day? And we pick them up from school and they say, it was fine. I don't know, it was okay. And then I asked my son this question multiple times. And after about a year of this, and I was like, well, he seems terribly bored, should change school. Maybe this is not inspiring. And so then I started changing and focusing on questions. And so I started asking the question of, so what was your favorite thing to do at school today? Well, of course, that elicited a lot of emotions. And he told me he loved lunch and recess. Of course you do. And what did you like the least? And then of course this elicited a lot of emotion. And he hated math or whatever it was he was dealing with that he didn't like. So it's not necessarily about the length of the question. It's about asking a question that's really going to get the other person to explain, demonstrate, give you emotion, give you reasons, give you purpose. So you want it to be a powerful, very, very powerful question where you get the person to talk and explain and describe.
Would love to have the audience chat in some of the powerful questions that you may want to share with the group here. We will put this as part of our resources that we'll give to everyone following, but if you wanted to share yourself some very powerful, meaningful questions, we would love for you to do that in the chat. So please take a moment to do that.
We've got one already. I like this one. So Kurt, I apologize, I may butcher your last name. If I do, I apologize in advance. Cherlo, what did you find the most challenging about this project or initiative?
Oh,
that's a great project. That's a great question. What did you find the most challenging? So yeah, when you get someone to actually look back and think about something, and whenever there's an emotion connected to it, it's going to give you more info. So even with a CEO, or when you're talking to new customers or new team members, what keeps you up at night? You know, what is the biggest challenge that you that concerns you, that you focus on, that you think about. So again, always attach it to some type of emotion and you'll get a lot more out of it as well.
We have a list in a leadership resources guide that we will be sending again as part of the resources, where we have a list of 100 great questions for a variety of audiences. So you'll receive that as well. Okay, Greta. All right, so being humble. Being humble, this can be tough for some. It is one that many of us have to be reminded of as it relates to being humble, but it's really important from an innovation standpoint. So tell us a little bit about what you learned about why being humble is so critical to be a leader and to be innovative.
You know, I've learned this lesson the hard way many, many times. So I'm sharing this with you all and being humble right now. I'm being as transparent as I can be
right now. Yeah.
I am being humble. And most of us are not great at managing projects right away. And we're probably not great at managing people right away. And that is because we don't learn leadership by, in school. It's actually a process, but we can certainly attain leadership skills and actually focus on them now in our friendships, as parents, if we're on teams. And I think the most important part that I learned about leadership is that it's not about really managing the process. It's about making sure that people trust you and can rely upon you. And I think, Andrea, you pulled up a Harvard Business Review article that I just loved, and I was almost through it this morning. So thank you for my reading material this morning. That was perfectly.
You're welcome. The article
perfectly
on
introduced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so building trust and being vulnerable. So for instance, I'm not a web developer. So if something isn't working, I can go into panic mode and like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the most important parts about being a leader is knowing what you really are good at and putting yourself around really skilled, talented people and letting them speak and letting them help you. So we always think that the guy at the top of the mountain that's doing this is the leader and actually always motivating people. But I think what is probably the best way of leading is letting other people have the opportunity to lead with their expertise and their talent and give them the platform and let them run with that. So we all have to work together. So I'm usually at the bottom of the pile here. So I ask for help more. I ask for opinions and thought processes so that I'm making sure that if there is a step or a crucial situation that we need to uncover or determine, that I am making sure that people know, I don't have the answers here, folks, but I'm going to find the answers and let's work on this together. Andrea, you're an expert in marketing and an expert in so many innovative and creative things, engagement especially. And so it's really important to make sure that we are demonstrating that we don't have to know everything to be a good leader. We do have to elicit trust. We do have to make sure that we are communicating effectively. And we do need to make sure that people do rely on us for that momentum and hold them accountable. And so humble doesn't mean, or transparency isn't a bad thing. It's actually a good thing because this is where trust comes from. This helps you build a team. So it's not always saying what I'm bad at or I'm awful at this and I'm not going to deal with it. It's actually showing people how you're going to climb up that mountain. So I talk about how I'm trying to heal myself, or I'm sleeping more often. So it's really stressful. This is what I'm doing. Yeah. And so that the people can see me move forward and then they say, oh, okay, she can move forward, I can move forward. So I sometimes share some of those things on purpose because I want people to understand that we're all dealing with the same challenges. And as a leader, I can hopefully inspire them to do something a little differently.
This is a good one, folks. I just wanted to make sure and call you out, Greta, because this is one, as a leader, truly that you inspire people because you do share your authentic self with these things. So leading into the next, and that is meet with purpose. Okay, who has had a painful meeting experience, whether it has been lately or it's been prior to COVID-19? How many of you can identify with being involved with a meeting that was painful, mentally painful?
Today. Oh my God, all the non-chart webinars are painful. Oh, yay, thanks, Katie.
So,
Yeah.
so Greta, this is an important one. It's number 8. We're getting close to the top 10, but this is one that you do talk about often, and I would love for you to share some of the important ways that you can meet with purpose.
Okay, meetings drive me crazy. I hate walking in a room and it's like a surprise attack by someone who says, by the way, we're going to work on this. And my brain, I'm not engaged and I'm not ready. So that I walk into a room and a blank piece of paper and I'm kind of excited. I might get something out of it, but then I kind of know that it's not going to go the way I'm hoping. And my boss takes me from this thought process to this thought process to brainstorming to, we're supposed to solve everything in 45 minutes. And so I was very tired of those type of experiences where I was just being flung around and I couldn't bring my best self to the party, because if I had 10 more minutes or a day or an hour, I might have been able to bring something more productive to the meeting. So it always made me feel awful. I was like, well, if I knew ahead of time what the problem was we were trying to solve, I could have brought something else. But sometimes people can't think on their feet, or they're young and they don't have the experience to be able to do that, or it's just not how you're designed. A lot of people, you can't just ask them, put them in a room. I think we all know that 80% of the people, if you ask them to brainstorm on the fly, have a very hard time with that, unless they're in a room of people that can help create that innovative thought process. And we all, work off of each other. And so we should actually stop calling meetings meetings. So number 1 rule in our office, we've really made a focus of this year, is we just found ourselves in nonstop meetings. Like, I'm sorry, I can't work on that right now. I'm in a meeting. I have a meeting. We're like, oh dear, this is bad. What is the meeting? What's the purpose of the meeting? So instead of calling things a meeting, call it what it is. It's a brainstorming session. It's a strategy session. It's a goal planning session. It's a subject matter expert interview session. So if we avoid the word meeting in any of our meetings, that will help dramatically, then, because people will understand the purpose of why we're all in this room together. We're trying to get something as the outcome. So make sure you give people time and energy to think about and to be thoughtful to come to your meeting. The other thing we're doing is we cut our meetings in half. So if we generally have an hour meeting, we're only going to have a half-hour meeting. And that, I think everyone looked at me like I was out of my mind when I said it. But then we started doing it, and we're still in the process of doing it, Andrea. And so we work on this very hard, but it's about the preparation is part of the time. And then there's the follow-up and post work. So the actual meeting time can be much shorter. So most of us just say, let's meet, and you're just going to huddle, and then you don't come prepared. Those are the worst meetings to have. So make sure if you're going to have a meeting that you actually set expectations. You give people time to come prepared. What do they need to bring with them? What do they need to think about? And that's really, so the book that I read that actually put this in the best perspective was Death by Meeting, or Death by Meetings. Is that on here? Yes. I'm reading the chats. And I think that was the one that book helped me immensely. So I never had a meeting the same again.
So read it, folks. It's definitely a good one. And it's very eye-opening. I would have to say that because of what we're all dealing with, when we do have the rebound, which we will, we are all going to be expected to do much more than what we have in the past. That's just the reality of it. So this in particular will be a solution to that time productivity. Death by Meetings is a great read. Okay, Greta, Personal Advisory Board. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and that is, all the things that you know now, knowing what you know now, after all the experiences that you have had and what you've gained, what would you go back and do differently, and why?
Well, the Personal Advisory Board is something that I would have done much earlier on. I did it midstream in my career. And we always talk about mentoring and coaching, and that we should have a coach, and we should have mentors, but make it a purposeful mentor and coaching system. So I call it a Personal Advisory Board. And so when I ask people to be on my Personal Advisory Board, they are actually giving me a different perspective. So if you look at this whole list, it may be from a different generation. I know I worked with a lot of people that were older than me, so I could learn from them when I was young. And then when now that I'm older, Now I actually seek the opinion actually of younger people because they're looking at technology very differently, and we have to adapt and stay relevant. So in order to stay relevant, for me to stay relevant and make sure that I'm holding myself accountable and I understand how I'm coming across and I understand what I need to do differently, I have to look at a group of people that I trust. These are not friends per se, but these are friends that can actually tell me the truth and that I can trust and that will have that cone of silence. We don't want our friends and our colleagues to know everything that we're trying to work on. There needs to be a little bit of privacy to the things that we need to focus on, a little bit. Being humble and transparent is one thing, but we don't need to tell everybody everything.
Mhm.
And this is a group of people that I could say, hey, I really want to be this. What do you think I need to do? So when I wanted to start Sales Boost, I went and knocked on the door of all these people and they all gave me their feedback. And so I got a lot out of that. So when I was ready to try something new, I had a whole group of people that I could rely upon that would give me, I knew that I could trust that they were going to tell me the truth. Sometimes the things that I didn't want to hear, but they would tell me the truth. And they would give me criticism that I needed and help me set the right direction. And so I have kept this going since that time period, and it's been so incredibly helpful.
So this personal advisory board is bringing us to our 10th one next. I just wanted to make a quick note that we are coming up on the hour. We've got a few more important components to finish up. And thank you for staying with us, but we understand if some of you need to sign off. That being said, the personal advisory board, Greta, before we move off, these people help unpack you both personally and professionally so that you can then rebuild yourself in the best light possible. And so you have multiple advisory boards, is that correct? You just don't have one.
I do. I have an IT advisory board, and I find the best of the best, and I ask them to be on my IT advisory board. In fact, I just got a gentleman who used to work at Uber to be on our advisory board, so pretty excited about that. And Mike Dominguez has just joined our advisory board. And so these are personal and professional advisors. But, you know, looking at whatever problem needs to be solved, people want to help others. We do want to mentor and coach. We do want to share our expertise. And so I think it's a really great opportunity to round out and make sure that you're not just looking at the lane that you're currently in. Step out of that and branch out and find people that have completely different perspectives. So it's a really great way to reach beyond and get out of your comfort zone.
And quite frankly, build your network.
Well,
from diverse perspectives. So, okay, number 10. So everything we've talked about today has brought us to number 10, and that is think differently to find creative solutions. It's no secret why this is the last, Greta. So give us why you've positioned it that way.
Well, so if you're going to find creative solutions, your brain has to be prepared to do that. You can't just make it do it. And sometimes we will find innovation in the worst of situations and circumstances. And, you know, again, we will all be asked this question later in our lives, maybe tomorrow, maybe 10 years from now, maybe by our grandkids. What did you guys do all day at home? What did you do while you were sheltered for however long? How long has it been that we've been sheltered, by the way?
You mean during COVID-19, what did you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is a great time to talk about how you can inspire others and what you did to actually find that time. And it could be professional, it could be personal. My husband really wants to get good at backgammon, so he loves trying to win. So he's at home right now studying on backgammon moves. He thinks I'm a good backgammon player. I just take risks, but anyway, whatever. So to be a problem solver, to be creative, you have to get out of your comfort zone. And these are all things that can help stimulate that. I'm going to read something from Carol. Oh, hold on. Nope. Yes, Carol. Carol Murrell. She said, listening to this, I'm going to start learning to draw. I bought some books and haven't done it yet. I can learn how to draw one thing each day and take it in small pieces. I want to learn this to have better flip charts, graphically capture some parts of meetings I saw. Today, you can combine a skill like this with Mural and do graphic meetings. Absolutely. That's a great idea. So you're
fantastic.
So that stimulation, find ways to be mentally stimulated, whether it's people or whatever just be inspired by things that you don't think you'd ever be interested in, but try something new. It's very interesting to see what will come out of that. So great job, Carol, for pushing yourself out of that comfort zone and finding a creative, useful way of using your time.
Well, and you've said it very well, Greta, where you really can't get to number 10, think differently to find creative solutions, unless you do all of the other 9 ways above it, 9 ways prior to. So from Bring Your Best Self down to creating the personal advisory board, those specific ways to be innovative get you to number 10. And would you say that is the right way to look at it?
Yeah, back in the day where everyone told us to work as a team. Okay, teamwork makes the dream work, and they have all these posters all over the place. And I always found that interesting. I'm like, what do you mean by that? Like, work as a team? Of course I'm working as a team. I'm nice. I say hello, I wave, I help, I pitch in, I do whatever I can. So this is actually giving you actionable items. So when we say, instead of saying think differently to find creative solutions, here is the list of things to get you to the point so that you can think differently. And I think that's the most important part, is give yourself different ways and methods to push yourself forward so that you're the best version of yourself. You have the mental aptitude, you have the desire, the need, the purpose, and the energy level to actually move things into a creative solution. Because now more than ever, we have to be creative to find solutions to help our organizations and to help ourselves be better versions.
So we have a poll that we just launched, and you should be able to participate in it. And the question is, of the top 10 ways to be innovative, which one is most meaningful to you? Which one has spoken to you? Which one will you take action on first, is our question. We would love to hear how you would rank those, and certainly you can, if you can pick more than one, feel free, but we really love to know which one was most relevant and resonated with you. Greta, we're seeing a lot of participation on Turn Up the Pressure.
It's kind of between Best Self and Turn Up the Pressure. So it looks like we're, Turn Up the Pressure. That's getting a lot of love.
Getting a lot of love. So one of the components of our challenge for you all is we're going to send, as part of the packet, a self-assessment exercise. And we've done this with groups before, where you take the top 10 innovative ways, you take a look then at yourself, and you really address what your personal SWOT is, your strengths, areas of improvement, your growth opportunities based on what we've discussed, and then any hurdles and excuses, so you can go ahead and get that on the table. And share that with us, as we'd love to hear what your personal SWOT results are. From there, we'll also, again, provide you with a ton of resources. So here's a list of just a few. Greta, I did want to let everybody know that you have a podcast and a blog and white paper that you've written on the top 10 ways to be innovative. So the audience can actually listen in to more detail on your podcast for sure, as well as really get some white paper advice on the white paper about what you've done in your stories. So I just want to call that out. I thought that was a good additional resource.
Yeah, I listened to the podcast with my husband, and it's hard to hear your own voice, I have to be honest. But I was listening to it, which then elicited the let's play backgammon and try something new. Anyway, so that's how that came to be, is because we were listening to the podcast. So, feel free to share all of this. All these resources are free during this time period, so please share them. We want our industry to come back, and this is a passion for us. Hospitality, obviously, is our passion, and learning and development. So feel free to share anything else that you find interesting. We'd love to hear your feedback and any additional questions that you have.
Very good, thank you. And last, we wanted to open it up to Q&A for those that might have some questions for Greta, and also for the points that we've made in general. any of the resources that you wanted to address. Please go ahead and send that into the Q&A or the chat, whichever is most comfortable for you. And Greta, I wanted you to also address the subscription opportunity too that the group will receive, because that's something else that is a special offer during this time.
Yes, so our content is very meaty because it's not just a platform where you plug something in like an LMS and you create your training. We have pre-baked training courses, and a lot of them are self-development. For instance, Simon T. Bailey, which I think a lot of you know, is one of our subject matter experts and one of our collaborators, and he has a series on brilliant presenters. There's many things within Sales Boost platform that can really help you improve your own communication skills. So now's the time. So if anyone would like that, we're offering it as 50% off. So it's about $30 a month.
Wonderful. And we also have a weekly webinar series we wanted to invite you all to attend as well. We know Chart does such a wonderful opportunity with continuing education and webinars. We also have a weekly webinar series that we do on various topics surrounding preparing for the rebound on Wednesdays at 2 Central. And Greta, I know that there's a couple of questions that have come in, so we'll take a moment to address those before we conclude.
Yeah, so Shannon, Cicatelli, I think I said that right. I know you're recording this webinar. Is it possible for you to share the presentation as well? And yes, we will. We'll send it out as a PDF link. And I love this topic of innovation, and we have been working within our training team to see what we can come up with, and for our home office and add us into the team. So I think it'd be a really good topic, or they could build something great around this topic. We agree. In fact, every time we share this, people are like, ooh, my team needs this, they need this. So you can take all those top 10 innovative ways and make those into mini courses yourself. So you can take that and expand on it. But I think this really helps you set at least a platform of innovation within your team, for yourself, for your family, you know, whomever that it is. But hopefully you take these away and repurpose them as you need to be successful in the future.
Very good. Very good. Okay. And we have a couple other questions that are coming in. So we've got one here from Rulis Specht. Hopefully I pronounced Rulis's name correctly. So what could I do to generate money from home due to COVID-19 lockdown? Well, that's a big question. And I think one that everybody has asked. I know that people in my family have asked. Greta, I'm sure that you've had many questions like this addressed to yourself or even family members too. And so, you know, I think that I would open that up also to the audience, that you give some ideas and chat, you know, what could I do to generate money from home due to COVID-19 lockdown? You know, one thing that I would say may not generate initial revenue, but would generate revenue in the long term, which are things we still have to keep in mind, and that is curating original content. And we've heard about this, but it is so important. People, you have an expertise out there that you can offer to others. And so it's our job and responsibility to share and pay it forward. And so if you can create original content, whether it be a blog or an article, or maybe even a top 10 list of your own, and start sharing that out to generate a following and an audience, that's going to start building your credibility that in the long term will provide you with revenue rewards. Now it's up to you to be able to, you know, generate that and facilitate that. But to get you started, offering your expertise and sharing it and paying it forward is one thing that I would highly recommend. That would be one advice.
There's one thing that we oftentimes will outsource different components when we're looking for very specific talent. So if you are certified in any way, shape, or form, is it called Upskill, Andrea?
Yes, it is.
So Upskill is a great place if you know how to develop content. If you're, you know, again, an expert in any way, I would highly recommend looking at Upwork, because people are looking for gigs and then you can agree to what that gig is, either for short-term or long-term. So I think Upwork, especially for the trainers or creative graphic, these instructional design folks, I think that is a great place to find people that are truly really good at what they do, because you'll be able to see what projects they worked on, what people said about them. There's if you have a great voice, you might consider Fiverr. It's a place, Fiverr and Upwork. And if you've got a great voice and you want to do commercials or do anything related to voice work, I know that Fiverr is a great place for voices.
Those two recommendations are really, really great. In addition to that, we've had Katie Higginbottom had said, check out Christy Wright's website, and that's businessboutique.com. So I'll just offer that over to Rulis as well. Very good. And let's see here. Greta, do you have any other chats or Q&A coming in that you see?
No, I think we're good. I think we hit everything. We had some, let me see if there's anything else in the QA. No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, we wanted to, on behalf of our team and everyone at Sales Boost, Greta and myself, we wanted to thank Chart, all of the Chart members, all of you, and also wanted to say thank you to Tara, who's also working from home, for being our champion. We really appreciate the time we've been allotted with you. We hope you found it valuable and the innovative opportunities actionable for you. Greta, would you like to say any words before we conclude?
No, it's just such a pleasure to work with you. So Tara, thank you so much, and to all of the attendees, thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. Everyone, thank you so much for dialing in. Again, all of this will be posted on the website by later today, including the handouts. We really appreciate it, Greta and Andrea. Everyone have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone.